Hey everyone, I have a really exciting show for you today. I have one of those stories that's inspirational. It's one of those big goals that you can really reach for. So let's welcome Preston to the show. How you doing, man?
I'm doing very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Let me first off qualify. Yes, that is my puppy sleeping on my shoulder. He's very whiny today, everybody. As you know, he's having a rough go of it. So I'm going to hold him here and so he's quiet. And Preston and I are just going to have a conversation. So don't be freaked out, everyone. So Preston, before we jump into sort of Q&A, why don't you introduce yourself to my audience, what your goal is, sort of why the goal. It's very impactful, and we're going to dig into it together.
Yeah, of course. And first of all, yeah, very grateful to be here. I'm a big fan of yours. Listened to the book. I didn't read it. Um,
Very cool.
and it just kind of inspired me because I similarly am in tech and have the W-2 and love it, but have, broader vision. I think a lot of the work I've been doing personally is just on purpose, just broader purpose, the why behind
Yeah.
uh, what we're doing and why we work so hard. And I think, one of the key things, I live in the Bay Area, so it's super expensive to live there. And I'm really passionate about making housing more accessible to people
Hmm.
because um, if what's kind of currently happening continues to happen, a lot of good, hardworking people get kind of pushed out of the good areas. They
Hmm.
have to commute longer. They spend longer in their cars. They get less access to things like quality education and services, and upward mobility over time.
Hmm.
So one of the things that I'm trying to think about is how can I have a big impact on that problem?
Mm.
And I think it ultimately bubbles up to the wealth gap that I think is a pretty kind of big issue.
Sure.
And as I look at the legacy I'd like to have, that I'd like myself and my wife to have, I think one of the things that's exciting to us is um, narrowing the wealth gap. And I think the way that we can have a dent in that issue is by increasing access to desirable, attainable housing.
Okay.
And so, yeah, why is that interesting, or how did it then connect us to ADUs? So, I mean, I think investing in the Bay Area is hard and kind of kind of crazy.
Investing in the Bay Area is hard. Wow. Wow. Oh, okay. It's hard. It's impossible, man. Come on.
It's kind of impossible, especially if you have any interest in cash flow.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you're doing anything except gambling on seven for appreciation, yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
cash
If
flow
you
is not an option.
if you love, to use your term, alligator
Yeah,
properties, then yeah,
exactly.
absolutely, invest
Bay
in the
Area
Bay.
is for you.
Exactly, exactly. So, but being able to kind of crack the nut is interesting, right? Because from a supply demand dynamic perspective, there's a lot of demand.
Sure.
So if you can actually create new supply in a way that isn't prohibitively risky from a time or cost perspective, there's a lot of upside there for the
Hmm.
investor,
Sure.
and a lot of upside there for the person who's trying to have a positive impact on creating additional units. So one of the specific questions you asked is, what is our goal?
Yep.
Our goal is to, over the next 3-4 years, to create 1,000 additional units in the Bay Area,
Okay.
leveraging the new California statewide ADU regulations. That,
Yeah.
I think, from an investor's perspective, what's relevant is it allows you to, very simply put, buy a duplex on a large lot and add 3 additional units, turn it into a 5 unit. And if you can do that at a relatively, uh, reasonably priced construction cost fashion, then you can create some kind of outsized returns. And it could kind of create that, that famed
Yeah.
Burr model that is kind of hard to do sometimes in the Bay. But again, speaking of the Bay,
Yeah.
but that's the general idea, kind of from a purpose and a kind of investment thesis perspective.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit more about the ADU in California specifically, because again, I'm in the Bay, right? I'm in Mountain View, grew up in Sunnyvale, so I'm a Bay Area kid myself. Um, we we've not been very ADU friendly until 2020, right? You could do it if your lot was big enough and your neighbors didn't. I mean, it was tough.
Yeah.
But in 2020, before this health crisis, California wide, they approved ADUs not only for duplexes going bigger, but also on single family lots, right? There are some restrictions, lot setbacks, all of those things. But that was, oh my God, I can't believe I'm about to say this. I can't, I'm not sure I can get the words out. But is one thing Gavin Newsom did right.
Yes.
Yeah, well, everybody finds it's 2 o'clock it's always 2 o'clock twice a day. So he got one thing right. I jest, but not by much. But that was a good idea, right? And again, it was statewide, right? He's the governor, so he took it out statewide, and it was pretty. It was kind of it had to be done, right? The Bay Area, the Silicon Valley. If you go back to January, pre all this shutdown, 3.4% unemployment, house prices going up, inventory pretty low. If you hadn't had a relatively recent equity event, or you just won the lottery, you weren't buying a home.
Right.
Right. Because you had to bring 600 grand, 500 grand as the down payment, right? Some people are listening to this going, shoot, my house costs 200. Dude, your house cost was less than a down payment in the Bay Area. I mean, it's nuts. I mean, Palo Alto's average is 1.8 million.
Yeah.
1950 build ranches. It's nuts.
Right.
So I just want people to realize what we're talking about here. And the ADU is a great answer. And then of course we get in this health crisis. Everybody's locked down. You no longer have, drive to work. So the commute problem is gone away, but we will be back, right? There's a light at the end of the tunnel, and I have high hopes for ADU. I don't even have high hopes for ADU in the Bay, but as you know, my story, I'm in Fresno and I have, let's just call it 50 homes. It might be 45. It's somewhere up there. And about 80% of them are quarter acre lots set, where there's plenty of setback. Right. And I'm like, dude, I want to get one of these cookie cutter ADUs and slap it in the back for 25 grand or whatever. I don't know if that's what it'll cost, but I see all these things online from like Amazon and all these pre-built things. I'm like, that looks sexy, man. I want to get me one of those. Can I order 30? Do I get volume discounts? I mean, come on.
Exactly.
So these ADUs are going to be a thing. So you've researched ADUs a little bit more. Can you tell me, what does it really take? Are there kind of requirements, or what are some of the rules and regulations that you have found out in your discovery?
Sure. I think one way to answer it is to touch on a piece that you were talking about a little bit earlier, like what makes this more interesting in 2020 versus the past.
Yeah.
So one of the things, because the ADU thing, it seemed like there was something there for a while when these regs kind of started coming out, but the shortcomings, at least from an investor perspective, one, had to be owner occupied.
Yep.
So for an investor, that's tough.
Yep.
Two, parking requirements. You had to add or replace parking, add and replace parking. And so that made it tough. You had to have a huge lot. And so it minimized
the idea went from great idea to, wow, we're talking like 2% of the market. It just went away. Yeah.
Exactly. So, and then multifamily wasn't included there.
Yep.
So there were a few big things. And then, in January, multifamily was approved, and in a very friendly fashion, in that you could add on any multifamily property 2 detached and 1 additional, at least 1 conversion ADU. So for instance, you could take a carport or a garage or a boiler room or something like that on a multifamily and convert that. So you take a duplex, you turn it into a 5-unit. And then in a lot of places there's rent control, right?
Sure.
So, or you've got below market rents. So you're taking a new unit and you're able to more than double NOI. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure I caught that correctly so others can see it. So I buy a duplex. Let's say it's 2 bedroom, 1 bath attached, carports in the back. Let's just say. So, and let's say it's on a big enough lot. So we just remove that as an issue. What I think I heard you say is you can if the lot's big enough, you could build 2 more units.
Yep.
And then I could convert that carport to a 5th unit.
Correct.
That's pretty sexy.
And the other thing that's kind of interesting, to your earlier point, there were kind of discretionary issues with the neighbors being like, I don't want that.
Yeah, they get a vote kind of thing. Yeah.
Exactly. And that has been removed, which is pretty powerful. So as long as you're doing things where you're following the letter of the regulations.
There's 6-foot setbacks from the fence line and you're not intruding, right?
Yep. Exactly. Setbacks, height requirements, footprint, all those sorts of things. then there's not much that can be done to stop you from adding these units.
All right. Okay.
And I mean, to your earlier point, I think the underproduction of housing in the Bay Area is, I don't know what the number is, but I think Gavin's goal, to speak to Gavin, was like 3.5 million units or something like that across 5 years. And I don't think we've done 1/20th of that in the last 2 or 3 years. So it's, again, I'm not, don't quote me on the stat, but I
It's
think
not been good. We'll just say
it's
that.
been dramatic underproduction and we're not hitting the goals.
Yeah.
So, because there's so many, not in my backyard, all this stuff that just makes it really hard to build. And so you've got all of this kind of latent opportunity in our backyards, if you will. And yeah, it seems like it's kind of an interesting opportunity to give people kind of 4 walls, freestanding. That's quality living. And to be able to provide, and the folks that I'm working with on this, they're a cool company called Habitat. So you've been looking at a lot of these ADU companies. Habitat's the one that I've kind of stumbled upon, and they're just an amazing business. They kind of, the term turnkey is kind of trendy out there, right?
Yeah, that's okay. I get it. Yeah.
So this is like your turnkey ADU, and that they kind of handle everything, and they're using prefab construction, which can really bring down the cost of construction. And I have a little bit of a background in mobile home park investing and just manufactured housing. And it's one of the things, just from a broader perspective, that is just curious, just in terms of how hard it has been to proliferate manufactured housing or prefab housing, even though it's arguably higher quality. So that's kind of the approach that helps me achieve a little bit of, I wouldn't call it arbitrage, but keeps the construction costs in line to make it.
Yeah, there's certainly less variance, right? It's less variance.
Right.
It's almost like, hey, I'm going to add that to cart, as opposed
to buying it on a website. And from a just disruption to the community perspective, when you can just like spend maybe a day or two bringing in a unit, dropping it down, attaching it to the foundation, rather than doing construction on the street for a long period of time.
Yeah, the wood.
There's also value there
for sure, and speed and neighborhood. Yeah, it's all good. So, is that where you're focused? Are you looking at duplexes on, I'm guessing, a half-acre lot? Is that kind of the sweet spot you're trying to find today?
Yeah, pretty much 2, 3, or 4. I mean, what's also interesting is that if you get an 8 unit, you can add up to 25% of the units in additional units. So if you get an 8 unit, you can add those 2 detached.
Okay.
And then the conversion units can be a minimum of 1, but up to 25% of your total units. So if you get an 8 unit, you can add a total of 4 more units. So it scales.
Sure.
And I'm kind of a newbie investor, so I'm starting at the bottom, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think just from a recycling of money, velocity of money, how like percentage increase in NOI you can drive. The value there is in the duplex, and you have more duplexes than tries, and more tries than quads. So just start with the duplex and try to.
I want to play the money game with you, right? So you find a duplex, pick a number, 800 grand, 500 grand, doesn't matter. You pick that up, you get residential financing, because you can get that these days. But then you go about adding 3 ADUs. So if you're going to go back and burr that, you got to go back and get commercial financing, right?
Yep.
Interesting. Because with commercial financing in general, you're going to have to put more down, right? A duplex, you can usually finance with 20 or 25% down, but a 5 unit, it's at least 35% down, isn't it?
That's right.
Hey, look at this. Like, I've done this before. How about that? So you've really got to jump the value. So if you take it from 5, I'm just trying to do the math in my head. So let's say you do 5, 20% down, you got a loan of 400. You add 3 units, you're probably up to, 700-ish, 650, 700. You got to bring the value to roughly 1.05 million so you can refi out all your money. Is that kind of where we're at?
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much. And
like it.
It's a little, because in some of these high rent areas, right, you're able to get rents at, I don't know, $3, $4 a foot on the smaller units.
For sure,
And your cost.
It won't be the rent. I don't think the rent, and if you're controlling the cost, it makes perfect sense, right? And you can buy duplexes for $500,000, 600, 700 grand. You're going to get lower. You're going to get well used, as I call it.
Well used, yes. Vintage.
Vintage, yeah. It has character. This is pretty fun. So have you done one of these yet? Are you in escrow? Have you done one project yet? You want to
So
talk
yeah,
about that?
we've got a 4 unit in Santa Cruz that we are currently adding the units on, and we're in escrow on a few others.
So what'd you buy the fourplex for in Santa Cruz?
The fourplex, purchased it in 18 for 1.3.
Okay. 1.3. And again, you're going to take it from 4 to 7, right? You're going to do the
Yep.
2 plus the add-on. And what are you adding on? Is it just 1.1s or what are we adding?
Yeah, trying to maximize bedrooms is kind of the thesis.
Yeah,
So there'll be
bedrooms and bath and parking, right? It's kind of that order, right?
That's right. That's right. So I think we'll be able to get 6 or 7 bedrooms across the 3 units.
All right. So you're talking at least 2.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yep.
2. I mean,
At
2
least
bedrooms.
2. I think on one of them we'll be able to do a 3-bedroom.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah. And and then my all-in construction cost, and again, we haven't gone through it yet, but
I gotcha.
should be sub 320 a foot. So we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. But
this is very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go now to what really attracted me to your story and why I asked you to be on the channel. And correct me if I'm wrong, because maybe my memory's bad, but I thought I read that you and your wife, so this is definitely a dual mission goal, is to try to create 1,000 ADU units in the Bay Area. Is that fair?
That's right.
Wow.
That's right.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's exciting. I mean, why? I mean, it seems like this is one of those things that just it's kind of incumbent upon investors to take advantage of these regulations and do the most good we can, have the most positive impact that we can. And then what's also fantastic is that it seems like the unit economics work.
Yeah.
So why would you not try to have the biggest positive impact you could, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, you just kind of think about it from a legacy perspective, the whole think about it from your deathbed and just man, 1,000 families are able to live close to work, school, and the beach or whatever it might be because of work that we did. And so I think that's the approach. And we're in a phase in our lives right now. We're both about 35. We have a 3-year-old daughter, and you start to have those thoughts and conversations about like, what is my impact? What's my legacy? How am I going to just, rather than spinning the wheels, how are we going to do something that really matters and that helps people?
Yeah. Preston, I really think, this is what I think. I don't think the ADUs have taken off as they should. Some of that's this health crisis. Some of it, frankly, just to be quite frank, because again, I own a lot of units. I talk to investors all over the country, let alone pretty much all over the state. And to say we're suspect of government regulation and we're not quite sure if all the goodies are really there,
totally
would probably be a fair statement for most of us, because we've been burned a couple of times.
Totally.
So where I'm going with this is it's going to take someone like you and your wife to go put some points on the board, right? Take the Santa Cruz project, celebrate the hell out of it. Take the San Jose house or the Gilroy house or whatever's next. It's going to take a couple of people like you and go like this. You got a problem? Go look at the scoreboard. And then it would just catch wildfire. So what I want to say here is I don't know if you're doing this, but I could see how it would get in your head is if you feel like it's going too slow, you're not quite yet feeling the momentum. I don't want you to feel that way, because you're on something. The first movers, it's always tough. But one thing I've learned in real estate for 20 years is once the herd gets going, it'll freaking run you over. So right now you may feel like you're on a desert island and nobody sees your SOS sign.
Right.
Trust me, in the next 18 months, that SOS sign is going to be burning fire, and you're going to have 5 cruise ships docked, and you're like, I don't have enough food for you all. So realize what's coming, and keep working, keep grinding. But I just didn't want you to feel lost. So I hope that makes sense.
It totally does. Because I have been having those feelings, right? When you're just kind of like, how this is so important.
Yeah. What is everybody else missing?
What is everyone else missing? Why aren't people trying this? And I get it. I mean, this has been a journey that my wife and I have been on of just trying things and failing and failing and failing. Yeah. And then just finally having something click and you're you're kind of using the benefit, right?
Yeah.
That might be a benefit of regulations, which,
Yeah.
take what you can get.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I think it's fantastic. And that's why, as you could tell, I've got nothing to sell here. It's just,
Yeah.
let's get this message out. Let's just
Right.
help. So, on my Instagram, it's just, I share my model, I share I share the regulations, trying to just share everything, get the message out, because yeah, if I do 1,000, that's great. But if I help people do 1,000,000, that's better. So
Exactly.
I think that's kind of the goal. And I know that's what you're doing too,
Yeah.
where you're just kind
Every
of putting
day.
everything out there.
Yeah.
And it's just, hey, this is important. This can help people. This can help you.
Yeah.
And I've been, blessed that I've stumbled upon something that can, do well by doing good. And let's just get that message out there as much as possible.
Well, Preston, I have a very loyal following that lives in California, that owns California Dirt. So where should they be following you? Because again, we have all heard about ADUs. I've talked about it a couple of times, but as I mentioned, I'm kind of like, Gavin said, so I'm not sure. I'm not sure I want to read that mousetrap. It might put my head in the vice and take me out. So where should people go to follow you, your journey, just see what's going on? Because you're doing yeoman's work, and it might feel a little lonely today, and we want to get you some followers.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, Instagram would probably the place. It's just welcome home California _. I couldn't get welcome home California.
So welcome home California _
That's
at the
right.
end. Okay.
That's
all right.
right.
I'll put that in the first line of the description. What else should people know?
That's a good question. I mean, I think you said it all. I mean, one of the things I love about your message is this is not overnight stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's, while I maybe feel like we've got something that we've kind of stumbled upon that could work. It's been, I don't know, kind of a decade in the making of just researching and trying and failing and failing and failing. So that's maybe one message.
Well, let me tell you about 2010, because I think this will resonate to you. It might even help you secure funding, private money, and all of that. So we've been investing for about 10 years. And so we'd gone up and the market was crashing, right? As you read or listened to in our book, we survived because we got out of housing and moved into apartments.
Yep.
But because we watched our market every goddamn day, I started seeing houses like that first house I sold, Norris Drive, for $260. It came on the market after being foreclosed at 100. And then it was 90 and then 80. And then I tried to buy it at 60, but somebody outbid me at 70 or 75. It's in Zillow, so it's public record.
Yep.
But where I wanted to go here is we were buying basically a trashed house every other week for 2010. And I kept wondering, where the hell is everybody, right? Like, are you not seeing this? I mean, I've been looking at my market for 10 years now, and this is what lots cost. I mean, what are you guys doing, right? So what I did is I just started documenting the story, probably like you're doing on Instagram. At the time, it wasn't video, it was blogs, right? So I wrote a blog called wealthbuildingpro.com, and I just documented everything, right? So take your Santa Cruz house. I documented what we planned to do. Then I documented, hey, took pictures of, hey, the I don't know, the lot's graded. Hey, this. And what I had done, because I was turning these, I was burring them before burr was a thing. I would buy a dump and I would have it fully remodeled and leased within 8 weeks. Usually 6, but 8 weeks on the outset, because it was just juggling everything. And I was working full time. And what happened after I wrote like 6 or 7 stories, I had more private money come my direction than I knew what to do with. I had borrowed millions of dollars from people in my network that I didn't even know had money, because I never asked for it, right? I just kept documenting, right? We'd buy it for 50. We'd put 15 in, and then we'd rent it for 1,200, and cash flow was crazy. And then we'd go borrow 60. We get all our money back, and we just do it again and do it again and do it again and do it again. So what I wanted you to do is keep documenting your success, put it somewhere. Maybe put it on YouTube or somewhere where really the library builds. And I promise you, by the end of the second project, you will have people in your network going, hey, how can I get a part of that? Because private money is what's going to make this thing go. And I've done private money twice. In 2010, everybody just wanted flat interest. They were risk averse. I paid 10 points. I paid 10% interest. And I got 10-year notes. I got money, again, I was buying a lot value. So I borrowed at 10%. I just paid off I think I have 2 notes left. I paid off most of them, but I got 2 left. And then in 2018, after I retired, I was willing to pay 10% again, but people didn't want to do that. They were a little greedier. They wanted
Yeah.
the upside.
Yeah.
So what I designed was what I called a 6 and 20 program. So I still gave them 6% interest, just like a bank loan, right? Interest only, just so I don't do the freaking principal reduction. And then I gave them 20% of the upside, right? Because my model on those were flips.
Right.
So again, what I would do is just document the hell out of your story. I promise you, by the time you get to your third one, people will raise their hand to be a part of this. And you just have to design something that's good for them first, but also fits your model, right? If you're trying to build and ultimately hold 1,000 units, you probably don't want to offer profit because there's no exit, right? But
except on the takeout of the refi.
Yeah, so you just have to pull it together so it makes perfect sense and is easy. But yeah, I keep documenting your story. Money doesn't show up on the first one; it gets interested on the second one. By the time the third one comes around, you're a pro, and it's like, hey, I want to be a part of that. So hopefully my journey makes sense to you, and I just want to give you encouragement to keep going.
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate it. And yeah, you've been an inspiration to me, just someone who's actually done it, and just seems like a normal person who's made some smart decisions to just work hard over a long period of time. And
that's all it was, man. Sacrifice, live below your means, right? We're both in tech. So we both know, I promise you, we both know people that make $500,000 a year and spend it all. Right. I promise you, we know those people.
Right.
I was doing that when I was until 30. And then we ultimately lived on 50% of our income.
Wow.
And that's what allowed us to keep investing and really accelerate in 2010. You got to live below your means. You can't have your lifestyle inflate because once you start momentum, it starts like a trickle, then a stream, and then it just becomes a gusher. But you gotta be diligent. You gotta wait. Like if we would have stopped at year 10, it'd have been okay. But it was really those last 4 or 5 years where the true wealth showed up.
And didn't you, because I'm in the newer phases of this, but didn't you do this with your wife in growing this?
Oh, absolutely. She's a part of it. She gets veto power. I mean, my job was to find deals and secure capital, but I needed that check and balance. And she was that. Olivia gets full credit. She told me no or vetoed like 3 deals. And that's a killer, right? You spend months putting deals together and then she sees it for 7 seconds and goes, nope, we're not buying that one. I'm like, but that was just our agreement because we absolutely did this together. She did the books. I mean, I was all over the planet for my job. I couldn't be, all I did was find deals. That's all I did. I kept looking every day for the next deal. And she ran the business, managed the books really, because we had a property manager. Right. But she probably worked harder than I did those first 10 years because she was doing the daily decisions and building the process and procedures. I mean, all I was doing was writing offers, right? And learning my market. So she certainly had the harder part.
Yeah. Which is amazing. The reason I bring that up is just because there's been an acceleration since I've been better at kind of bringing my wife into the process.
Oh, smart.
And just that team component, the accountability component, the helping me understand when to go from analyzing to action. Yeah. And so my encouragement there for your audience is simply, it's very valuable to find a team. It's kind of hard to go it all by yourself.
Oh yeah.
Whoever it might be, find someone who aligns with you on this and just share your vision and collaborate.
Yeah.
And I think that'll take you further.
Yeah. The biggest thing I'll say on this, and we'll call it a show, was by having your partner in it, who's really in it with you, not just, there to pat you on the back, is she carried me a couple of times when I had down days, right? That first rental didn't turn out great. Then going to a housewarming party when one of your employees ends up with a nicer house than you, that freaking kicked me in the nuts, man. That was rough. But she was right there for me and she took care of me. She listened. And then she said, he's going to be working in 10 years and you won't. And I'm like, all right, honey, that's all I needed to hear. Thank you. I feel better now.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So having your partner on board is nice. And also you get to go out to dinner, talk real estate and write it off. It's all good.
Absolutely.
All right, Preston, thank you very much. Where can people go find you again?
Yeah. Welcome Home California _ on Instagram.
Very cool, man. I will post it there. Thanks, buddy. Take care of yourself.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Bye-bye. Yep.